If we have to listen to MC Hammer for the 18th time in the last hour, and it's one of those baby tapes that plays the same song over and over again, or if I could hear Soul to Soul instead of Sheena Easton or Madonna. When we got the new Madonna tape, that we played that over and over and over a lot. So we fight a lot about music.
Yelling at you, saying they're right and you're wrong all the time, mostly.
Some of the things we fight about are like going places and how late I should be out.
We fight a lot about chores. Jennifer doesn't like to do her chores, and I don't like to do my chores either.
Doing jobs around the house, cleaning my room.
Part about I want to go out every night and do stuff, party and stuff, but my parents don't agree, and so we have our problems there and stuff like that.
I want them to be able to trust me so I can go out and stay out later because, as she said, they don't trust me because I'm a girl.
Probably the protectiveness of my parents bothers me because it's, especially my mom, and just like she's afraid to let me go out on certain nights or certain days and with certain people and stuff. And I can understand, but you know, sometimes I'm like, you know, Mom, let loose. You know, I want to go out and do stuff. You know, I'm growing up. I'm not your little kid anymore.
The thing probably that's caused the most conflict between me and my parents is my independence and wanting to just go off on my own and do my own thing and not be responsible, at least to them.
I experimented a lot with sex when I was younger. And to my mother, that was the worst thing in the world to do. And I couldn't talk to her for the longest time. When I could finally sit down and talk to my mom about sex, I was older, and she accepted that I was older and that I was going to make my own choices.
Somewhere along the line, conflict got a bad name. We don't know just when or where, but most of us somewhere learned that conflict is inherently negative. Too bad. If we're too nervous about conflict with our kids, we'll miss opportunities to teach them problem solving and negotiation skills. And if they don't get those at home, then they'll have to hash them out through trial and error at school and in the workplace and in their friendships and in their marriages like most of us did. Too bad. Kevin, what do you think when you hear a parent say something like, if there's conflict between me and my child, it means that there's something wrong with us?
What goes through my mind is that that's probably something that most parents buy into. At least many believe that conflict automatically signals that they must be doing something wrong as parents. Maybe they just feel that internally, but very often then they take steps to say, well, whatever I did to cause the conflict, I got to quit doing. And that may not be necessarily true at all. In fact, it may mean the opposite. Conflict with your adolescent may mean that you're doing something very, very right. It could mean that you're pursuing a wrong goal and you're in a power struggle with your teenager, but it also could mean that you're taking one of those sacrifices, one of those risks. You're taking a hard stand. It could mean that you're having the courage to face something that is causing some dispopularity with your teenager. Really, what conflict does, probably more than anything else, is it enables a parent and a teenager to start talking on an emotional level. Most teenagers don't enter into that very easily. Most kids don't want to open up and talk about their feelings. They're afraid. They're afraid if they're exposed that somehow they'll be condemned or put down. But when conflict happens, kids kind of lose that guardedness, and they let some of those feelings out. And it makes it possible for mom and dad and with the teenager to start to communicate on an emotional level. Things can come out that this teenager's been feeling for a long time and maybe has never articulated before. And a wise parent, one that knows how to weather conflict in a healthy way, will use those times of conflict to find out important things about how their teenagers are feeling. I always tell parents that they're weathering conflict in a healthy way is if in the midst of the conflict or in the wake of the conflict, their commitment to stay involved with their kid and minister to them is deepened. Now, if in the wake of conflict, their commitment to stay involved with their teenager and minister to them is weakened, not strengthened, then they haven't weathered conflict very well at all.
But conflict takes energy, it takes time, it drains me. Give me a reason to not flee those things that can disrupt my life.
Probably the best reason at all is that conflict is what allows families sort of to open the windows and air the dirty laundry with each other. Gives an opportunity for the wounds and offenses that maybe have gone on undealt with, untalked about. They come back up. It gives everybody a chance to deal with them again. That's one of the best things about conflict in a home environment. And I think you're right in the fact that it's really draining. It takes a lot of energy to deal with conflict in healthy ways. And that's why I think it's be virtually impossible for a parent to deal with conflict in healthy ways for any long period of time if they aren't getting their own tank filled, so to speak. They're not getting emotional fuel from some source. And, of course, the best source for that is a relationship with Christ.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What, is it Halloween already?
No, I'm going to the dance.
Not looking like that, you're not. Look at you. You look like, I don't know what. You get right back upstairs, wash your face, get that junk out of your hair.
Come on.
Don't you look at me like that, you little...
What? Whore Daddy? Is that what you think? Mother.
Baby, come on.
I hate you, Daddy. Gotta get out of here.
Hurry, you're gonna hurt her, please.
You are not leaving this house looking like that.
Watch me.
What do you think when you see that kind of thing, Kevin?
I think that dad and daughter are in a power struggle. And when a parent and a teenager are in a power struggle, it's always the parent's fault. Now that might be sound a little strong. I'm not saying that the daughter isn't at fault perhaps for what she's chosen to wear. We don't see in that vignette what she's wearing exactly. Maybe something that's quite immodest. And certainly this daughter needs help and she's being disobedient, defiant. But the power struggle itself that's going on between dad and daughter is the dad's fault. Two people are in a power struggle whenever they're pursuing mutually exclusive goals. Dad has a goal to keep his daughter from going out looking like that. That's his goal. Daughter's goal is to go out like that. Two mutually exclusive goals cause a power struggle. When that happens, and inevitably that's going to happen from time to time with every one of us that are parents, parenting our kids, we're going to find ourselves, as this dad did, in the midst of a power struggle with his daughter. We're going to all find ourselves from time to time in power struggles. When we do, it's important to step back and say to ourselves, what goal am I pursuing right now? What's going on? And almost always, the parent can change his goal in a way to get out of the power struggle. See, what this dad cannot do, he really can't prevent his daughter from dressing this way or going out this way. He can't control that. And by making that his goal, he sets himself up for frustration and huge conflict. But what he can do is he can control how he responds when his daughter looks like that. And the way he's responding is not a way that's helpful at all. It's nothing that engages the daughter in dialogue. It's nothing that gets her thinking through what kind of impact that dress has. It's nothing that tunes into what her need of the moment is to dress that way. Instead, he gets involved in a power struggle. Almost always, whenever a power struggle ensues between parent and teenager, the relationship erodes and the teenager's alienated.
Well, it depends on how mad I am. If it's something that happens that really makes me angry, I yell loud and can be unreasonable. And then when I'm conscious of what I'm doing and I'm trying to really work on it, I will not yell, and I'll tell her I'm angry. She has to write an essay on what the offense has been all about. And we have a long discussion, which I sometimes feel like she doesn't get a chance to really say what she wants to. So yeah, I guess it's me venting at the time and letting off steam.
Let's talk about the underlying causes of conflict. Can you identify what you think those are?
Well, many times parents, I think, incorrectly assume that when conflict breaks out in their home, that it means they're automatically doing something wrong, or that whatever's causing the conflict is the culprit. And very often, what they attribute the conflict to is a very superficial thing. It's like the topic of dress. And so what a lot of parents will say is, since conflict is bad and makes us all feel bad, and it makes us all feel distant, then let's avoid conflict by avoiding the topic of what our daughter's wearing. And in reality, it's not the clothes here that's causing the conflict. It's not what she's wearing, but it's selfishness and immaturity on the part of how the daughter's handling her life and how the parents are handling the daughter. So I'd say in the end, the cause of conflict is immaturity on the part of the people in the home and family. Now, the answer then is not to avoid conflict. The answer is to let the conflict occur, but when it does, let's reflect and trace it back to the immaturities that exist within each member of our family and the weaknesses in our relationship. Let's take a look at these things and address them. And in that way, conflict can be a very, very healthy thing. What it does is it gives you a glimpse into the souls and the hearts of each member of your family.
My children and I used to fight a lot about, the normal curfews, the things that you do argue with your teenagers about. But I think the underlying, some of the more underlying issues that we had that were more of the controlling issues was the rivalry among the three girls, the competition that they felt they needed to display between themselves because their father and I were very competitive, and so therefore the underlying subtlety was, unless you achieve, you're not okay. Now, we never said that, and I never would have thought I was saying that, but that was the underlying message. Achieve, accomplish. On one hand, we'd say, do the best you can, we love you just the way you are, and on the other hand, we were out there achieving all the time, modeling that was the only way that you could get along in this world. And that created a lot of unrest and a lot of tension in the family and between them and between our daughters and us.
You know, I think that very often parenting is a lot like, let me use a metaphor, a lot like playing golf. You know, if you tried to play a whole round of golf with only one club, you're not going to do very well. You need, according to the need of the moment, to pick an iron or a wood or a wedge or a putter. And see, most parents aren't playing with a whole bag of clubs. They use one club and they drive it into the ground. One dad I was working with, he only had one club, lecture. Another mom I was working with only had one club, show sympathy. And no matter what happened, even if it was very, very inappropriate according to the need of the moment of that teenager, all she knew how to do was to show sympathy. All he knew how to do was to lecture. Now, lectures sometimes are appropriate. Showing sympathy sometimes is appropriate. But when you can't be more creative and learn to use all the clubs in your bag, then you're going to be a very limited parent. And see, kids need parents that know how to use all the different clubs and will take into account what the needs of the moment are in their teenager and then pick a club that's appropriate at that time. Now, I certainly don't want to use that metaphor to imply that parents ought to be clubbing their kids. But in the golf context, they need to be learning how to use these different tools, different ways of responding to their kids.
I've got two kids, and right now they're 20 and 17. And before I even knew that I had a problem with parenting, it was 10 years ago, they were 7 and 10. And I realized that I had done things to them, made demands on them that they should respect me or respect their mother in ways that, I mean, it was pretty childish on my part, some of the demands that I put on them. And when I realized how wrong I had been and how much I had hurt them and how much I had alienated them with the, I've even been violent in my family back in the first 8 years of their life. And abusive, critical, very critical of them as people. And, you know, in the meantime, I'm taking them to church, and they think that, you know, how does this all fit together? There's a loving Father in heaven, and I mean, this is a pretty critical situation. So, anyway, by the time I figured out there was a problem, they were well into starting adolescence, and I was faced with the challenge of developing a relationship with teenage kids that was very damaged.
Steve Covey tells a story about a man he knows who said, "Steve and I can't understand my son. He won't listen to me." Covey said back to him, Let me get this straight. You can't understand your son. He won't listen to you? That's right, the man said. I can't understand him. Covey said again, let me be sure I'm clear on this. You can't understand your son. He won't listen to you. Yes, the father said. What's your point? Covey said, well, I just always thought that if you wanted to understand your son, you'd probably have to listen to him. The man was impatient with that response. I know what's going on with him, he said. I was young once. No, Covey replied. That's your autobiography. What about his?